Welcome to The Explainer. Now, if you're deeply curious about the hidden biology that governs your daily energy, your focus, and your cellular recovery, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to completely deconstruct the true, underlying science of digital screen fatigue and circadian disruption. We're moving way past the superficial advice you've heard 1,000 times before. Instead, we're going to look directly at the molecular, neurological, and physiological realities of exactly how glowing screens interact with your autonomic nervous system.
So, let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. It's one that takes aim at a massive $2.6 billion marketing machine. You've definitely seen them, and honestly, you might even own a pair right now. Blue light blocking glasses. They are aggressively marketed as this ultimate, scientifically backed cure for digital eye strain and messed up sleep. But when we actually look through the lens of rigorous clinical data, do they perform the biological heavy lifting we're told they do?
The answer to that is a resounding no. The stunning conclusion comes directly from the gold standard 2023 Cochrane Review, which synthesized 17 different randomized clinical trials. And when it comes to evidence-based medicine, you really can't get better than a Cochrane Review. It's the pinnacle of scientific rigor. Their findings established a clear, unshakable foundation for what we're talking about today. Basically, the vast majority of commercial blue light filtering spectacles make absolutely no difference to your eye strain, your macular health, or your actual sleep architecture.
So, why do they fail so spectacularly? Well, it really just comes down to basic physics and biological thresholds. Most commercial blue light glasses only block about 10 to 25% of incoming blue light. But to actually have any impact on your deeply ingrained circadian rhythm, you need a filtration threshold of over 90%. Literally, if your glasses have clear lenses, they are likely blocking less blue light than the natural aging process of your own eyeball.
Okay. Let's move into the anatomy of screen fatigue and understand the biological dual threat at play here. We need to untangle exactly what happens when you stare at a monitor for hours on end, because there is a fundamental biological dual threat that most people completely conflate. On one side, we have computer vision syndrome, which is fundamentally a physical, musculoskeletal, and surface-level eye issue. But on the exact opposite side, we have circadian disruption, and that is a deeply systemic, neurological, and hormonal response that literally dictates your cellular recovery and metabolic health.
Let's look at the physical side first. Computer vision syndrome, or digital eye strain, is characterized by fatigue, dryness, headaches, and blurred vision. But crucially, this is not caused by the specific wavelengths of light emitting from your screen. It is driven purely by how you interact with that screen. It's a combination of severely reduced blink rates, which causes surface dryness, and the sheer mechanical fatigue of the ciliary muscles inside your eyes constantly straining to maintain near focus. Think of it like holding a heavy dumbbell at arm's length for 8 hours straight, but for the tiny little muscles inside your eye.
Now, since the 1990s, the universally prescribed remedy for this muscular fatigue has been the famous 20-20-20 rule. You know the one. Every 20 minutes, look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. It sounds perfectly logical, right? It's like a built-in mechanism to just relax those ciliary muscles. But as we apply modern clinical scrutiny to this legacy advice, we really have to ask, does this actually work to cure the symptoms of computer vision syndrome?
Well, when subjected to clinical scrutiny, the data is highly revealing. A rigorous clinical trial out of SUNY College of Optometry took 30 young adults and had them perform a really demanding 40-minute cognitive tablet task. They enforced strict 20-second breaks at varying intervals, and the result? Those scheduled 20-second breaks had zero statistically significant impact on the reported eye strain, their reading speed, or their task accuracy. So while looking away is generally a good habit, a mere 20-second pause is biologically insufficient to reverse that cumulative muscle fatigue and tear film evaporation.
Now that we've debunked the muscular myths and those ineffective glasses, let's pivot to the blue light mechanism and how it's actively hijacking your hypothalamus. This all starts with an absolutely incredible evolutionary mechanism hidden right inside your retina. Alongside the normal rods and cones that allow you to actually see images, you have a highly specialized neural network of cells called iPRGCs. These cells do not form images at all. Instead, they act as your brain's ambient light detectors. They contain a photopigment called melanopsin, which has a peak spectral sensitivity that is perfectly tuned to the 460 to 480 nanometer range. And guess what? That is the exact frequency of blue light emitted by modern LED screens.
And the speed of this neurological cascade is just staggering. In literal milliseconds, blue light from your screen hits these iPRGCs. In microseconds, that electrical signal travels down a dedicated neural highway called the retinohypothalamic tract. Within seconds, this signal strikes the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that's the master pacemaker of your biological clock, located deep in your anterior hypothalamus. And within minutes, this pacemaker commands your pineal gland to immediately halt the synthesis of melatonin. It is screaming at your biology that the sun is high in the sky and it is time to be alert.
The scale of this suppression is monumental. Clinical studies show that just 2 hours of evening exposure to an LED tablet causes a staggering 55% reduction in circulating melatonin levels compared to reading a printed book under dim light. You are actively chemically stripping your brain of the very hormone required to initiate cellular repair and transition your entire nervous system from a sympathetic, alert state down into a parasympathetic, restorative state.
And the systemic biological fallout of this melatonin suppression is severe. This highly dose-dependent exposure fundamentally alters your deeply ingrained evolutionary sleep architecture. We're talking about an average 1.1-hour delay in your entire circadian phase, literally pushing your body clock backward. We see a 1.5-hour delay in the actual onset of melatonin. This leads directly to increased sleep onset latency, which just means you're lying awake longer, and deeply fragmented, inefficient sleep. And as a critical side note here, adolescents, because of their developing neurobiology and naturally shifting sleep phases, they are exceptionally vulnerable to this precise type of circadian damage.
Since commercial blue light glasses failed the clinical test, let's explore software versus hardware filters and the technological trade-offs of each.
We are constantly presented with software toggles as the ultimate fix for this, but the biology tells a much more complex story. The stark contrast here lies in the actual mechanism of action. Software filters, like Apple's Night Shift or f.lux, attempt to solve the problem post-render. They're just digitally manipulating the subpixel values, shifting your screen to a warm yellow tint. They don't actually stop the monitor's backlight from creating blue light. They just mix colors to mask it. Hardware filters, on the other hand, are physically built right into the monitor's panel or coating. They block the specific high-energy blue wavelengths at the source, effectively reducing the light reaching your eye without distorting the visual color accuracy.
Now, this distinction leads to a truly fascinating biological paradox. In a clinical trial involving 80 employees, researchers tested these software blue light filters. Subjectively, the patients felt great. They reported a significant reduction in visual fatigue and much better scores on their sleep questionnaires. But when the researchers looked at the objective physiological biomarkers, the data completely flipped. The software intervention actually caused a significant increase in evening cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone, and a continued decrease in evening melatonin. Basically, the software created a massive placebo effect of visual comfort while objectively worsening the user's endocrine regulation and stress response.
So, where does this leave us? Let's talk about some evidence-based screen solutions and build a biological blueprint.
We obviously can't rely on unproven legacy rules, superficial glasses, or placebo-inducing software. So let's rebuild your screen habits from first principles, utilizing actual clinical evidence. First, optimize your physical ergonomics. You want to lower your monitor slightly below eye level. This physically narrows the opening of your eyelids, which drastically reduces tear evaporation and actually combats the physical dryness of computer vision syndrome. Second, utilize hardware-level low blue light filters built right into your monitor's display menu. This physically stops the 460 nanometer wavelengths at the source without destroying color accuracy or tricking your brain. And finally, you have to strictly manage the dose. Because circadian disruption is highly dose-dependent, you must radically reduce raw LED exposure in that critical 2-hour window before your target bedtime. You have to allow natural melatonin synthesis to actually begin.
So, the biological realities we've extracted from all this clinical data are remarkably clear. First, digital eye strain is fundamentally a physical muscle and surface moisture issue, not a light toxicity issue. Second, we have to accept that commercial blue light glasses are just not the silver bullet that marketing claims they are. Third, software filters often create a subjective placebo effect while objectively distorting colors and failing to protect your endocrine system. Hardware-level physical filtration is the vastly superior, scientifically sound choice. And finally, context is absolutely everything. A massive dose of blue light in the morning is highly therapeutic for setting your biological clock, but that exact same light in the evening is a neurobiological disaster.
We've moved far beyond just basic screen fatigue here. To understand exactly how deeply integrated our technology is with our core evolutionary biology. Knowing that the glowing screens in your home are actively reprogramming the master pacemaker in your hypothalamus and dictating your hormonal recovery. The question becomes,
How will you redesign your evening light environment tonight? Take these first principle insights, reclaim your neurobiology, and sleep well. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.